this is the part of the program, thank you all for coming today, but this is the part of the program where I tell everybody to please silence their phones. Just like my mic went silent right now. It's prophetic. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'll be going. That's all right. I'll just speak. Improvisation here. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. So next week at Lunch with Books, Tuesday, December 7th at noon. That's a day that should be familiar to all of you. We'll be having a Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day program. WVU Professor James Seichmeyer will be here to talk about the United States, the history of the United States and Japan relations, the relations leading up to December 7th, the reasons behind the attack, and the long-term significance. That's next Tuesday, December 7th at noon. Then in 2 weeks, December 14th at noon, we'll be celebrating the 230th anniversary of the Bill of Rights. We'll be doing that a day early. It was ratified December 15th, 1791. Dr. Mary Ann LaFauso, a professor of law at West Virginia University, will be joining us to commemorate the occasion. Some of you might remember that name. She was an instructor for our People's University in the summer of 2020 on the struggle for women's rights. So she will be here December 14th at noon to help us celebrate the 230th anniversary of the Bill of Rights. And then speaking of People's University, this Thursday, that's 2 days from today, December 2nd at 7 p.m., our next People's University series starts. That's on the Cold War. The brochures are on the table. You can take a look at the schedule there. The early announcements for that, so that the program starts at 6:30. That was incorrect. Those were for our online ones, but now that we're back in person, they'll be at 7 p.m. So they'll run from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. on Thursday nights. The only exception is the one on the class 4 is going to be on Tuesday, December 21st. All the rest of them will be on Thursdays. But this coming Thursday is our first class. It's the Iron Curtain Rising, What Was the Cold War? It's an introduction with instructor Dr. Gary Capel, emeritus professor of history from Bethany. He's an excellent speaker. So come to that program. It's going to be great. All right. Today's guest is Michael Harvilla. He worked as a photographer for the Intelligencer newspaper between 1973 and 1985. During this time, he took some amazing black and white photos that show changes taking places to the old familiar Wheeling landscape that many of us have never seen. Some of us have been able to see some of these on the Memories of Wheeling Facebook page. They're fantastic photos. If you've seen them, you know what I'm talking about. So today, Michael's here to share a selection of some of his personal favorites and tell us, he will tell us about the background and context of the photographs as he remembers it. So please welcome Michael Harvey.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Many of you probably remember more about this stuff than I will. And these pictures, when I do put them on Memories of Wheeling, a lot of times people were saying, don't you have any color pictures? And we actually did pictures back then with something called film. We didn't have digital stuff. We actually used film. And we had a dark room there. We go in and develop it. As I was telling there, a lot of times we would print our negatives wet, take them out of the developer, rinse them off, put them in something called photo flow, slap them on the enlarger, print them out. We have what was called an economic processor that would produce an 8x10 picture, run it through there, take it out and give it to the editors, and then we'd have to write a caption or something, or sometimes reporters did. And for whatever reason, now this color one obviously is a newer picture. I do have some newer ones here. For whatever reason, we would take our negatives and we would box them. The ones I've kind of been working on lately, I kind of have an idea what they are because they'll be cut in strips and in an envelope, and it'll say Wharf Parking Garage 1977. Okay. I have boxes of negatives that are just the rolls. it's going to take me forever to go through those. Probably the longest part of that process will be taking the curl out of the negatives to put them on the slide to scan them. But anyway, that's why they're black and white. And like I said, you guys may remember more about these in a lot of instances. And feel free to speak up. You can say, I remember that. One of the things that really amazed me about memories of wheeling, I'll be going through a negative or an envelope, and I'll say, oh, nobody wants to look at a picture of Chaplin Street with snow on it. How many people comment on, I remember driving through there, look, that's my Aunt Martha's Buick driving. A lot of guys will comment on the cars. You know, oh, look at the 65 Chevy that's in that picture. You know, roughly 73 through 82, worked for the Intelligencer, and I actually started there probably about the fall of 72. They do a thing every year called their football pregame. And I went to West Liberty State College. They needed somebody to help go to all the high schools and take football team pictures and highlight the kids, the quarterbacks, and whatever. So that's how I started there. About the same time, there was a photographer there named Bob Toxic. Bob ended up going to work at Channel 7. And so they needed a photographer, and they're like, well, you're here, you know the routine, you want a job. So that's how I ended up being there. I started taking pictures when I was a sophomore in high school. One thing that amazed me is the picture of Stone Thomas. I thought, oh, that's a neat picture. Yeah, Christmas is coming. I'll put that up. And on the memories of wheeling, it's like last time I looked, over 1,700 people looked at that picture. You know, you look at it and you say, oh, it's the lights of Stone Thomas. A lot of people probably remember that. But boy, that struck a nerve with a lot of people. Yeah, and I kind of said, to steal a phrase from, I guess, Dickens, it's kind of a tale of two cities. You know, there was a lot of new things being built roughly in that time period. There were a lot of things being destroyed in that time period. This is up, who knows what that is? Islands. And that's where they're starting to build Cabela's up there. This is where the intermodal parking garage is. That's the back side of the warehouses. Somewhere on here's the point. There it is. That's the newspaper building right there. Okay. So the river's to my back. I'm looking, I guess that'd be east or southeast. And that's when they're tearing those down. The Civic Center's back this direction, back here. And that's when they were tearing that down to get ready to put parking garages. Something we don't have enough of in the wheeling parking. And that's what they looked like before they tore them down. That's basically between 14th and 16th on Main. And you can see there's the Civic Center under construction back there. There's the river. Yeah, there were a lot of different businesses in there. Clear down at the end down there is the Carnell building, and it's still there. I think they call it the Flat Iron building or something like that. And I'm sure many of you have parked at the wharf over the years. And that's gone now, and obviously we have the amphitheater, Heritage Port. And you remember the days we were driving through Wheeling and you couldn't get through Wheeling?
Still that way for another reason.
Actually, I put a picture of downtown where the street's not too long ago. Somebody said, I drove through that same intersection today. He said, I could have thrown a rock, I wouldn't hit anything. And of course, now the streets are all torn up. They're doing all this electrical upgrading and sewage and water, whatever they're doing. One of the reasons I put those up is because you see a lot of the businesses that used to be there. And again, downtown, the streets, the snow, that's Chaplin, that's Market, Central Union Building, and Bernhardt's and the Victoria Theater, and Hanover Shoes, and Thrift Drug. You got to remember what Thrift Drug is, where Elby's was. Anybody go to Woodsdale School?
Yes.
Okay, well, there's Woodsdale. With a big torn down. That picture of Woodsdale, that's the old Wheeling High School. That's Kruger Street. And this is, I think, Washington up in North Wheeling, is that right? Okay. And this is when they were building Wheeling Middle down about, what's that, about 32nd Street or so, roughly.
Middle school, 35th.
Okay. And that's just when they were basically getting started on that. Anybody ever go to 7-Eleven? That's where they were building the 7-Eleven. Okay. There's the Thrift Drug. Remember Winky's in Wheeling, hamburger place? What was it? Winky's, it makes you happy to be hungry or something like that. So that's where Winky's, Wonder Shoes, Bernhardt's, and you guys probably remember Doc Williams. That's up on Main Street.
There were a lot of shoe stores.
Yeah, there's whatever. M&M or something like that, or M&M, and Tom again, yeah. Which is kind of surprising because in West Virginia, they said we're all supposed to be barefoot anyway, so I don't know why we got so many shoe stores.
Potential customers.
There you go. And again, there's 7-Eleven. This is where they built the magistrate building right in here. That's the back of the jail. That's the back of what was Wheeling Electric building, which I think Sheriff's Department has that now. This is where they were building the magistrate court. This is spick and span Clater, just up the corner. They had a fire there a number of years ago. This was 12th and Oak, I think it was. They had like a youth center in there for kids. Stratford Springs, Broadway is here. This is the back of the McClure. They're doing work there. And this was the old radio parts store. That's the Bory's building right there. That's the alley, and they tore that building down. Up in Warwood, this is when they were doing construction at the water plant up there, expanding that. And then I think it would be over in here is where they put Warwood, the new Warwood schools across the street right over in this area. Yeah, you all remember the custom house, they did a lot of renovations there, sidewalks inside, around the footers. Then we have the old, was that straw on the corner down there. And like I said, these are just the tip of the iceberg on these. I have boxes and negatives that I'm still going through. As a matter of fact, I was working the past couple of days, Labor Day flood in '75. So I was going through and starting to scan some of those. And then I have other ones, obviously. We'd be here all day long if I put everyone I've scanned on so far. Yeah, there's some work inside the custom house.
There's the old 50th building.
Yeah. Right there, 50th building. $50 bank when it was a bank. Country Western Club. Someone was asking the other day, country, did they used to have a bowling alley where the Country Western Club is or was? They said they thought there used to be a bowling alley in there at one point.
There was a lot of stuff in the 50th building. It's a pretty good sized building.
Yeah,
Businesses, and then I know it was on the upper floor.
yeah. I know a couple places, go out this way, they had some bars and stuff in there at one point. Of course, now that's where the plaza is for, West Virginia.
They saved some of the pediments that were above that had the names of famous writers and things, and saved them and rehabbed them in that park area.
Yeah. Well, like I said, in some areas it was the best at times because, they're building new things, and I guess that's called, improvement. And then other places, a lot of buildings, you say, gee, you forget about them, or, one thing a lot of people, like with the Stone and Thomas building, or the Wonder Shoe building, say, I remember going there with my parents and getting shoes, or I remember going to the Hamburger Inn, or different places, or going to the tea room at Stone and Thomas. What's that Bob Dylan song, Other Times They Are Changing, or something like that? I will not sing that for you, by the way. Here's, this 14th is where they put West Bank up. Working on the steer wheeling typewriter. And that's where River City, what do they call it? Is it still River City or?
Artisan Center.
Artisan Center's upstairs. I think they still have a restaurant and bar downstairs. At one point, they've had a microbrewery, I think, when they started out. And then here's the steel going up, the guys working. And like I said, I put these on Memories of Wheeling page. And a lot of people say, yeah, my uncle Charlie worked for steel workers, whatever the local union was. And he was up there working the high steel. Now, you really can't tell because I can't tell from that picture, but I have to look at the side of that steel and say if it was made in USA or in China.
Made in USA.
That was probably 74. It was probably USA back then. Yeah, that was about 74, 75, somewhere in there. more steel pictures, and then here you can see what they used to call it, the flash cube. They used to call that bank the flash cube. And there's Central Union. It's back towards the Civic Center. There's a gas station on the corner back here. That's a drive-through for the bank. And they tore all these buildings out for the parking area. And I guess they're talking about what the buildings up by is, the Wheeling Steel building, about tearing a lot of that out, and putting a parking garage in there,
Up above, yeah.
up
And
above.
Chase Bank used to be the State Theater.
Yeah. So everybody can come, there'll be plenty of places to park, so you can go to 7-Eleven. And we have Medical Park, which is now with WVU Medicine. And that was back around 73 when they were working on that.
When did it flood?
75. Yeah, that's what some of those flood pictures I'm working on for 75. And I remember the story that when that flood happened, that someone told me, or several people said, a lot of the old timers that lived around Clayton in that area said, we told them to build a hospital there. If it rains, it'll flood. They didn't listen. They didn't put the proper drainage in. And some of the pictures I went through the other day, on the back side of that building, where the loading dock area is, it's all underwater. And like I said, I'm still going through negatives. And there's the old Wheeling Hospital up in North Wheeling. And then years after it was constructed. Every once in a while, you hear a story the old Wheeling Hospital is haunted. I don't know if that's true or not. Ohio Valley Medical Center. Here's J. Rockefeller. That's when they were breaking ground. There's the, I guess, nurses' residence back in here. Blue Cross and Blue Shield building.
What year was that?
Probably about 77, maybe, I'm thinking. And there's steel going up for that building. I guess what city's taking that over at this point. And here's some from West Banco. They had a parking lot where they took those warehouses down. And this area here, Wheeling Coffee's back in here. I think that's what, is that natural equipment back up through there?
Yeah.
And over here, it's kind of hard to tell, but there used to be railroad tracks through there. And of course, they ripped all the tracks out.
What year was? I'm not familiar, so.
Oh, that's probably about 75, 76. Yeah. Yeah, well, I look at the pictures, it's like, oh yeah, I just looked at it yesterday. And actually, back when we did these pictures, you actually had to know something about photography. You had to know what the shutter speed was and an aperture. And in this day and age with digital stuff, I'll see a really nice picture and I'll say, how'd you get that picture? What was your shutter speed? Well, what? What aperture did you use? I don't know. I have no clue. You know, it's just back in, there was an old saying for photojournalists back there that the rule of thumb to be a photojournalist was F8 and be there. And if you know anything about cameras, F8 is one of the aperture stops on the camera, and just to be there. And some entertainment. I think this is the Boston or the warm-up band for Boston. They're at the Civic Center. Some guy named Tom Jones. And I think that's Brenda Lee. Yeah. Now I don't think she had Civic Center. She was probably up at the Capitol. And I remember that even back then in the, like you said, the 70s, early 80s, go to the concert, take some pictures, go back over to the office to process them. And as you walk down the alley between the buildings, going back to the newspaper, which was across the street, you can smell marijuana coming out of the vents of the building. Not that anybody at those concerts would line up. Oops. And that's the Coronet Theater. That was Sergeant Pepper's movie, Lonely Hearts Club Band. You can see the line of people. Here it is from the other side. Here's the Victoria Theater. Movie there. And then they had the Twin Theaters up in Warwood.
Where was the Coronet Theater? Do you remember? Market Street?
Yes.
Coronet?
I believe it was Market, yeah. I think it was up on the corner of 12th and Market, maybe? Was it right on that corner there? Across from Tom McGee? No, it's Abbey McClure.
I don't remember the Coronet at all. I remember all the theaters.
Yeah. Well, no, the Coronet right there. No, that's down by, that's on Market between 14th and 16th. You see the Pythian back there. This is where I think the beauty supply, beauty school was.
Yes,
Scott's. And Kirk's Photo Art Center was there. And Coronet was right there.
I always wanted to call it the Colonial or something.
Which one? Could possibly. Like I said, I haven't gone through all these.
You can still read, it's incised in stone, Coronet on the Coronet building,
And
where one of the entrances was in the theater. Because I remember when I used to go there, it had two entrances.
What's it next to right now?
You know, you know what, it's funny, I can walk to there, and right now I can't tell you what's like directly around.
was it McGee office? Up along
The
there?
office
Two
supply.
office companies there.
Yeah, couple offices. Wheeling office and McGee's, I think we're up along there. Like I said, that's what Scott Beauty School
Yeah.
and Kirk's.
Independence Hall, I recognize all of them, about the Coronet.
Yeah. By the time I get to these negatives, if you all want to come back for a lunch session in 2075. And that was Thrift Drug, and then LB's, and that's what Laconia building, I believe.
Wasn't that originally like a Walgreens?
Yeah, yeah. And this I have marked was the Cave Club.
I was in the cave when I was a kid, but never in the club.
And is that where they kept the beer, keep it cold, because it stayed a certain temperature back in there? And I don't know if you can read that right there. This is the McClure entrance on 12th. And right there, it says ladies entrance.
Okay. That's the side of it.
Mhm. And this, I can't remember if this was in the McClure. I think this was in Laconia building where you went to go to the doctor's offices. And it said, newsboys, peddlers, and beggars not allowed. That's Blonde Ox. That's 70 coming through. And this is where the industrial park is right now, on East Wheeling. So just a few things have changed around Wheeling over the years. You know, back when a lot of this was going on, there was a thing called the Downtown Wheeling Associates. I don't know if you guys remember that organization. And at one point they tried, if I recall, to get the mall about where the Montana Towers is, and that fell through, and the mall ended up going to St. Clairsville.
Yep.
And of course, we have the famous Ohio River, the Delta Queen, and some large traffic. This is Lock 12, Woodwood, suspension bridge in Fort Henry. And yeah, you look at a picture and you say, oh, that's a picture of a bunch of boats docked down on the river. I'll put that on there because of the river. And it's amazing how many people said, we used to party down there. We'd go to the yacht club. Walker Dick ran that place. And yeah, the stories people will tell. And there was a guy that he actually lived on one of these houseboats. I can't remember. I think his first name was Phil. Don't quote me on that. And I was down there with little pictures of something I absolutely hated to do, girls in bathing suits on boats. Just really didn't like that. You can tell I haven't put one on. Yeah, it's a nerdy job, right? But anyway, I was talking to this guy once. I said, we were on this bus, would you have to leave to go to work? And he said, no, I only work like 6 weeks out of the year. I'm like, well, what do? You work for the steel industry. And when the steel plants would shut down to retool, he would go in and reset, recalibrate all the equipment. Another friend of mine from Pittsburgh, her brother did the same thing for the aluminum plants. Worked about 6 weeks out of the year. Whenever they would shut down, guys would be off, they'd go in and retool all the equipment. Of course, now there's probably nothing to retool at any of them. The old story was if you were in downtown Wheeling and a lot of the businessmen had the white collars, you know, if they had soot on their collar, don't complain about it because that means people were working. And again, more pictures of the river. You see the frozen, the ice at the dam, another angle of the wharf. Here's the flood gauge on the wharf. I think the flood gauge Wheeling, what, 36 feet? If I recall, Wheeling's flood stage. Now this is recently, I just took this probably 6-8 weeks ago. You see the bridge has that tarp on it. That when they were painting. Here's a senior citizen high rise up in North Wheeling. There's the windmill at the top of the hill. Which I guess many years ago was a gas station. And
Sterling gas.
Sterling gas, and it's
If you look on the, you'll see that
yes.
English L for
Okay.
Sterling.
Okay. And there's been a real estate office and a bar and a number of things over the years. And again, looking down the wharf, and there's Ryder Furniture and foggy down the river. There's the yacht club and the suspension bridge.
Is that before they built the Fort Henry Bridge?
No, Fort Henry's right there.
Oh, I see the edge of it.
See the piers there? This is 77. A lot of the ones I've been doing recently, I've been starting to put the date on them. And I label them when I do them as to what the date is. But when I go to look at them, unless I specifically write in there in the caption what date, you wouldn't know. So I start actually putting it on the picture for a lot of them.
That, where the Walker Dick thing, that's where they're gonna build the new park, aren't they? On the island for the suspension bridge.
Yeah, right in there.
Because they were talking about a lot of money to dig some things out of the ground, probably their old oil storage
Fuel
tanks
tanks.
or gasoline tanks.
Yeah. And then, what House of Carpenter would be like right in here. But, yeah, I put that up, and a lot of people said, boy, we go there every Saturday or Friday night. And, there's a lot of people wheeling at good times at the yacht club. Yeah, this is out in Woodsdale. Remember Kroger used to be there? That's the laundry up through here, Acker Hotel.
There where the laundromat is now?
Well, that building there's the laundromat. This is right next to the Acker. So West Banco's drive-through would be there.
Okay.
Would be back in here. There's Acker right there, gas station. People fording their way across the street. Yeah, what was that? Burger Chef. Guys, remember Burger Chef right there? That was happy. I guess that would have been an Exxon right there. And Wilson Dancer. Yeah, AAA's in that building now. And where the Kroger is there, with CVS, I think. They switched to Walgreens. I know Walgreens bought a bunch of different things. Still CVS. And my dad worked for Kroger. He worked for 41 years. He started out down on 16th Street. I think Opie Baldwin had a store there that Kroger's had, and then plus they were up around where Becker's used to be, up on Market Street at one point. And he would start out as a butcher, and he would say, you know, everything now comes in pre-packaged. He said, oh yeah, the truck would pull up, and then God walk over the side and quarter beef on the thing, just throw it on the floor and sit there and chop it up and package it. I'm sure the health department would appreciate that tonight. Some of the churches, that's at the corner of 14th and Chapel. He's working on the cornerstone. That's actually this church here, which I think is parking lot. That's St. Anthony's, I think. That's the working on Vance Church. The tower there, that's the cathedral, and this is Lawrenceville Chapel, and as we all know, you only want to go one way. Here's some more pictures of suspension bridge. Guys up there working on the towers. Is it open? I know it's closed to traffic. Are they letting pedestrians
I
across?
don't think so.
Yeah.
They did for a while, then they closed it to pedestrians. And of course, there's all the sunset on it.
Chances are, when they finally decide to state and get it repaired, it's going to be just pedestrian traffic and no vehicles at all.
Yeah,
Because even the modern SUV, a lot of them are bigger than the weight limit,
yeah.
without anything in the trunk or carrying any passengers.
Well, you know, if they go through with this Green New Deal, maybe we'll be riding our horse and buggies across that bridge. And here are a couple guys working on the railing, and then the high lift there for to jump the top. And that was one of the pictures I put on there, and somebody said, "Oh, that's my dad over there welding." You know, I kind of try to be careful a lot because lot of pictures that have people in them. I'm like, should I put them up or not? Because I don't want somebody to say, yeah, that's Uncle Charlie. He's doing 30 years at Moundsville Prison. And 470, that's around 29th Street area, putting the piers in, superstructure. Interesting story about that, and actually two stories. Cousin worked for State Road Commission when they were doing this. And a lot of times I'd go sit in the construction trailer for the state. And one guy was telling me, that maybe some of you have heard it, I don't know if it's true, Fort Henry Bridge. You know, when you come out of the tunnel and it goes up, the story that I was told by the highway guy was that when they were building that bridge, they were also designing Parkersburg Bridge. And down in Charleston, when they were copying blueprints, they mislabeled them and they called Fort Henry Parkersburg and vice versa. Not only did they do that, they printed them backwards.
I heard this acronym.
Yeah, and that's why you got that dip coming up out of the tunnel. On this job, I was sitting up there with him one day, and I can't remember the guy's last name. His first name was Walt, and we were talking, and a couple of foremen walked in, said, "We have to shift the crew to the high side." And he said, "What do you mean we have to shift?" He said, and I don't remember the man's name, there was a man there who did something special. He was either on disability or retired. He could only work so many hours a month. And as long as he could work, they could work on the West Virginia side. But when he put his hours in, they would shift over to the high side of work. And like I said, I can't remember if it was disability he was on, but there was something, if he worked too many hours, it would mess up with his disability retirement, whatever.
It's probably residency. You can consider it full-time inhabitant, working.
Yeah. Yeah. But so, yeah, these guys had to shift back and forth at that time. Your tax dollars at work. And here they're paying, you got Bethlehem. There's a water tower up there doing core samples along here and putting asphalt or base down for asphalt. That's the bridge over, when you get up to Bethlehem, it goes across the road. This is over in East Wheeling. Shank Bridge, I think it was. Manchester or Shank. And there's Blondlocks back here. Now this is the one over, comes off of 17th Street down over there. Goes over to the back road up toward the hospital. Rockport Road, I think it was. Okay. This is Attendees Bridge. And again, this is the one, there's a straw jack there. That was Macy's Club. I think they put something else, another restaurant or something there, and a warehouse. I'm not sure it was in that warehouse. Of course, the thing about it is these were back in the 70s, and they recently were trying to get all this bridge and road construction through Congress. So all the bridges that are built back then, they'll probably have to redo them anyway as they are in the 70s. Montana Towers, Lincoln School, is that right? Yeah. And we're building the towers there. Excuse me. I think that's basically around the area where they originally wanted to put the mall in Wheeling, isn't it?
Built the Civic Center. When they were doing it. That's where the original Civic Center is.
Oh, is that up there?
Up there by the tunnel one.
Okay.
We had a folder. I still say.
Yeah, out in Woodsdale, there was, Docus had a store out there at one point. There's another shop, Blawnox. From this angle, this is that Flatiron building, there's a newspaper over there. Carnell building, there it is from the front. And this picture was actually guys from the JCs. They were gonna go do some cleanup work someplace that had been flooded in Pennsylvania. But I put it up there because of big furniture. And a lot of people say, I don't remember big furniture. That would be 12th and Main Street. There's, again, the parking lot there. Yeah, I think they had a fire.
Yeah, like Christmas Eve.
And center wheeling parking garage, working on that. There's some of the businesses that are still back there now, churches. One thing you can say, we have an abundance of parking space. Wheeling downs. That sign says no dogs admitted. I wonder if now they have a sign up that says no horses admitted. There's a little boy with one of the standard reds and the carts. And they used to have the Wheeling Charity Horse Show over there. There's the grandstand. And of course, that's before they built all the casino stuff over there. And there it is with the casino, the racetrack, and Wheeling Island Stadium. And this just burned, what, about a year or so, a couple years ago?
It's a picture of all.
Ball rink, skating rink. B&O building. And then you guys remember the old viaduct that used to be there for the train station? And then garages under there, parking under there. Here they are tearing it down. And tearing the old steps out and went up to the train platform. And that old tower. High Valley Medical Center back here. And of course, the suspension bridge. Anybody has any questions, I'll try to answer them, or maybe you can answer them. I have some pictures from up there, which I didn't get into this group. I was trying to figure out how many slides to put in for like an hour program. And I think it ends up being like 40 altogether. And that's why I put multiple pictures on some of the pages. But, you know, like I said, we can, if the library is willing, we can do this again sometime.
Do you still take pictures?
Oh, yeah. Most of the pictures I take now, I put them on my Facebook page. Do a lot of wildlife pictures of birds, deer, and stuff. And I have a great setup because we put wildflower gardens in. And I can sit on my deck. And with a telephoto lens, I get pictures of hummingbirds. I was out this morning taking pictures of blue jays at the feeders. People, I had a lady, he said, because I live in St. Clairsville, she said, where do you get all these great pictures in Ohio? I said, on my back porch. Summertime, sit with a nice tea there, set the camera up, see something happen, take a picture of it. Quick story for Barcamp State Park. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Barcamp. It's about 15 miles from the house. So I drive out there, figure I'll go get pictures of egrets and heron and whatever. I'd go out and nothing. And I was at home one day and had horses on the property, and the vet was down to check on one of the horses. And we had just put a goldfish pond in the backyard 2 weeks earlier. So we're standing there talking, and this huge bird comes in and lands on the fence. And I said, "Hey, Doc, what's that?" He said, "Do you have a fish pond?" I said, "Yeah, we just put one in." He said, "Now you have a heron." And so Buddy and I, we had to actually make a cover put over it so you could still see the fish, but so the heron and raccoons couldn't get to it. So all this time I would drive to bar camp, the birds came to me. And the other day, we're sitting on the couch watching something on TV, and I look out, we have some shepherd's hooks right 15 feet off the back deck, and I look out, and there was a Cooper's hawk landed right there. And of course, I got the camera right there, so I'm taking pictures. He flies to one of the fences, split rail. Go out, put the camera on the tripod, and get some more pictures of him. So it's like, you know, for these, I had to run all over Wheeling. Now they come to me. But yeah, like if the library would like to do this again sometime, you know, I got tons of pictures.
I just wanted you to tell people where you can buy your cards, because I've got cards that were.
Oh, okay. One of the things with all the bird pictures and the bees and flowers I do, we make greeting cards out of them. And if you know where Touch of Amish is on National Road, Ann has some in there where I sell them. And also Schrader Center at LWB Institute right now is doing their holiday craft sale. And I have a booth up at the Schrader Center up at LWB. And there are other artisans up there also. So you can either go to Touch of Amish and find cards there, or up at the Schrader Center. Schrader Center, they'll be there through just before Christmas, I guess. Thanks for the free advertisement. Yeah.
Do you still use old fashioned camera?
No, I use digital cameras. But I will tell you, you know, all the digital cameras, if you guys know anything about them, you can set them on automatic and just point and shoot, basically. If I take 1,000 pictures, 995 of them, I have my camera set on manual. Every once in a while, I'll flip it over to program or something and let the camera do it. But, you know, 5 out of 1,000. I still think I might know a little more than the camera. Won't guarantee it, but I might. And the technology on these things is changing so fast that you go buy a camera today, by the time you get it home, take it out of the box, it's obsolete already.
I was gonna ask you, did you use a Graflex?
No, we used some of the ones with the 2 1/4, we used Sheikah, 2 1/4 camera, and a 35 millimeter, I was shooting Nikon. But when I was a sophomore in high school in Philadelphia, one of the professors from West Liberty had a contact to get camera equipment. And I was in school with his son, and his son was going to buy a camera. He asked if I wanted one. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. So they ordered it through West Liberty. My old college professor up there, Lou Corsetti would say a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. So as you can identify, I am a lethal weapon. But anyway, Lou ordered this from a camera store in New York. And we're waiting for it to come in. You know, I'm a sophomore in high school. I want my camera. I want to do it. No camera, no camera, no camera. And finally, the truck in New York had been hijacked. And so they had to put another order in. So we had to wait for the next shipment. My first camera was a Micromat. And I still use Nikon today. Nikon lenses, and that's basically all I shoot with. When I was at the paper, we'd be back in the dark room. We had a shelf there and we had cabinets. And I had set, and it was a Nikon F, and it was sitting on the shelf. And one of the guys came into the dark room, he opened that shelf, knocked it on the ground. And it dented the bottom of it. Well, the newspaper had our stuff insured. So we sent it to New York to get it repaired. Nikon sent it back, said, we can't fix it, it's total. The inner casing was cracked. I can still use that camera today. It still works for roll film, and it works fine. And so all the stuff, and I teach people, they'll say, I use Canon or I use Minolta, so it's like, I tease them, it's like, well, no wonder your pictures aren't any good, you're not using the Nikon. And the sad part about it is back then, as most things were Nikon cameras were made in Japan, even they're made in China now. If you look at a lot of components on it, it'll say made in China. So thanks everybody for coming. Got questions?